Newton. What is up, guys? It's MegamanChiefFan here. Welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be doing a book discussion video. Not really a full analysis video, but just kind of like, oh hey, what are my thoughts on books that I haven't discussed enough about? So that's what I'm doing. I'm discussing about books that I don't feel like I talk about enough, or I haven't even mentioned at all. Besides my bookshelf tour, which I mentioned all the books. And there is quite a few books that I felt like I don't give enough credit for in this pile. So, why wait? Let's get started. And what better way to start this discussion video than talk about Kurt Vonnegut? It's Kurt Vonnegut. It's Kurt Vonnegut, but I want to discuss about Mother Night a little bit more. Some people say that this is kind of like a prequel, kind of, like, to Slaughterhouse-5. I don't even understand why people would say, oh, this is kind of like Slaughterhouse-5, because, sure, it's set around World War II, and, you know, the whole bombing of Dresden thing in Slaughterhouse-5 is very relevant, but this is not that much like Slaughterhouse-5. It's not like it at all. If anything, God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater is more like Slaughterhouse-5, because that has at least, like, the terms in it. This just kind of like has all this, like, oh my goodness, my nose is itchy. But Mother Night is, it's good. It's really, really good. It's one of my personal favorites. I know I keep repeating that Vonnegut is good, but he is. The only Vonnegut novel where I really feel like I was disappointed with was Player Piano, but that was his first novel, so I was kind of expecting to be a little less, not as good as something like Cat's Cradle or Slaughterhouse-5. But this is where in his career that he really started to excel. I know he got fame from Sirens of Titan, but this was the first great Vonnegut novel. This was published all the way back in 1962, even before Cat's Cradle and Slaughterhouse-5, and I feel like that this is the novel that put him on the map, because it's really well written, it's really well done, the characters are great, especially the wife in here. The wife character is just brilliant, and there's just major plot twist in this book that I cannot dare spoil, because then it would be spoiling one of my favorite plot twists of all time. Then I feel like kind of a hypocrite. But Mother Night, just read it. It's Vonnegut. It's Vonnegut. It's so good. The next book is the only novel by this author, even though he wrote a whole ton of, like, plays and stuff. It is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This is pretty much centered around a man named Dorian Gray who has his portrait painted, and everybody compliments about the portrait and how they only wish Dorian for the best because they know that Dorian won't look like the portrait forever. Dorian gets really touched by this, not really touched, but kind of like hindered by this, and he thinks, you know what? I have an idea. I am going to make the portrait age instead of me. And then it does, and everything just goes wild from there. I really got a sense that Dorian Gray is corrupted with the 7 deadly sins. It doesn't reference the 7 deadly sins, like, directly. That was the word I was looking for. But it really shows that, yeah, this is what it's based on. This is what Dorian Gray's character is based on. But because Dorian Gray is not that nice of a person, I will tell you that, because there's also amazing plot twists in here. I'm thinking about rereading this book sometime, like, from a year from now, because, sadly, I'm starting to forget details about this book, and it's so sad. I don't want to forget about this brilliant book, because Oscar Wilde is such a witty writer. Oh my goodness, voice crack! Why do I keep pointing out these voice cracks? I should just let them go into obscurity. But Oscar Wilde is such a witty personality, and he puts his witty personality right into this novel. To the point, And I love this novel so much that I had to get this nice hardcover for it. Like, these Penguin hardcovers are great. If you ever find them cheap, I highly recommend them. They're fantastic. But The Picture of Dorian Gray. I cannot stress it enough. I really don't want to spoil any other elements of this novel, because if so, it would just, like I said, make me a hypocrite, because it would hinder the enjoyment of a novel that if I would ever make a top 20 books, this would appear on it, because it is just phenomenal. Now, the next two books are Bronte sister books, and they're the only two that I've read. And one I didn't even finish. But I'm going to talk about the one that I finished first. And I know it's a total crime of me to say that I've only finished one Bronte sister novel, but it's the most famous. I plan on reading Anne later. Oh yeah, it's Emily and Charlotte, by the way. So, it's Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This is the greatest romance novel I've ever read in my life. Note that I have not read Gone with the Wind yet, but I don't think any novel, any romance novel, will be as enjoyable for me as Jane Eyre was. Unless Anne has something up her sleeve, then, oh my goodness, I can't wait to get into Anne. But Charlotte, this is amazing. I know Charlotte was a really, she was a really bratty person in real life. Like, she pushed her sisters aside for fame through this one novel. And then her other novels, I've heard... One of them, Viet, I've heard that was actually okay. But her other two novels, Shirley and the Professor, I've heard they were trash. I've heard they were really trash. So, even though Charlotte is kind of a brat in real life, man, does she write good! This is probably my favorite book. Hold up, let me think. Yeah, this is my favorite book from a female author of all time. Just, if I were to make a top 20 favorite books video, this would be number 12. I'm debating just saying, screw it, give this a 5 stars on Goodreads, because I've had a 4 stars right now, which symbolizes 4.5 for me, but I think I'm gonna give this a 5. It is so great. I love this book to death, and I haven't even told the summary. I just kept saying, oh, it's great, it's bad stuff, Charlotte Brat, and whatever. But, it's pretty much centered around a girl named Jane Eyre, and it's more of a coming-of-age story than a romance. A lot of people remember the romance elements, because I feel like, some people are suckers for romance, which I'm personally not, but I do like the relationships in here. But what I am a sucker for is a good coming-of-age story. This is one of the best I've ever read in my life. Of course, it doesn't defeat Catcher in the Rye, which is still the king of all coming-of-age stories. Nothing will defeat that. Oh my goodness, everybody put your hands in the air for the brilliance. But Jane Eyre is still fantastic. I keep saying it over and over again that it's fantastic. My goodness, you utilize your intelligence, Graham! But Jane Eyre, I just want to say this before I go on to the next book, which is a thing to talk about. Jane Eyre, this is very, very, very dark at parts. Like, the first few chapters of this book are just depressing. But once you get past the first chapters of the book, it gets really, really good. And I love it. I love it. Tell you this. Once Jane leaves the first house she grew up in and goes to a school of girls, that is where the book gets amazing. And Charlotte Bronte is such an excellent writer. You know what? Forget it. I'm giving this book a 5 out of 5. I know I said don't give in to ratings, but seriously, if this gives such an impact on me, I can safely give it a 5 out of 5. Jane Eyre. Read it. It's one of the greatest novels of all time. It's 500 pages and it doesn't feel flat. I love it. I love it. I love it. But on the contrary of that, on the opposite side is a horrible novel. Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Oh, Jesus. Oh, God, I hated this book. I couldn't even finish it. It was this bad. But I didn't have to, but I wasn't reading it for school, so I could safely put it down. Oh, God. But Emily saw that her sister was writing Jane Eyre, and she thought, oh, I could do the same thing in a year. No. No. You can't. You spawned this. That's what you did. You brought jerks of characters, a bland, spooky gothic romance story. It feels like one of those generic, like those generic novels that you see at like Barnes and Noble or something, where it's how do I describe it? Like, it's set in a haunted house. I don't even know why. I just take my word for it. This is what I felt. This felt like a more fancy version of those novels, and it still has the same cliches. I hated it. It was way too depressing for my taste. The jerky-like characters. Oh my goodness, I'm not even going to discuss these characters. Like, there's this character in here that just sits in the back of sits in like a corner, and he just he's just like, don't enter the garden. I cannot recommend this novel. Don't read it. It's the worst. Just take my word for it. I may do once I can finally stomach going through this book, I may go through a whole video saying how awful this book is, but I don't like Wuthering Heights. Sorry for people who are fans of it, but if you like this novel, fine. Go ahead. I don't want you guys to base your opinions around someone on the internet, but I really don't like talking about bad books, but this one does deserve it because it's awful! This next book is one of my favorite plays of all time, and it's, of course, by Samuel Beckett, and it's not Waiting for Godot, it's Endgame. This was even more odd than Endgame, than Waiting for Godot. I am not even joking. There's like these two characters. All it is about is a man in a wheelchair who's blind and his servant, and occasionally two parents come up from a trash can and say, "Is the coast clear? Yes. Should we make love? No, why not? We've been married for so long, we can't have love." But it's so, like, deep that it's kind of allowed. You have to dig a little deeper than just say, oh, they're doing this. This is what it's like. Woo. It's a lot, there's a lot more to it than that. And it's fantastic. I flew through this in an hour and a half while watching a performance of it. And it's great. It's really great, but don't start with this. Definitely start with Waiting for Godot. This will just confuse you. I did start with this play because this was the only one I owned at the time, but I do kind of regret not starting with this one, but at the same time I don't, because it is really, really good. Can't recommend it enough for a play. This next book is a book that I know backwards and forwards, because we had to study it for school over the summer, and it is just, I thought I was going to hate this book. But I loved it. Holy free moly, this is a good book. Everybody, drop what you're doing and read this, because it is really, really good. And that is The Chocolate War by Robert Cornmeyer. The Chocolate War centers around a boy named Jerry Renault, who goes to this really prep school, who's ruled under, not by the school officials, but is basically ruled by a kind of gangster group called the Visuals. I'm really hoping I'm pronouncing that right, because like I said, I'm terrible with pronunciation. But, holy mother of God, Archie. There's this character, the leader of the Visuals is named Archie. And he's the best villain ever. Holy moly, he is one of my favorite villains ever. He's so diabolical and really plays with your mind that it just gives such an impact. I loved this book so much more than what I expect than what I was expecting it to be. I was expecting it to be just a normal school book about bullying, but the bullying parts of this book went extreme. It's dark, it's depressing. It also has kind of like lighthearted moments, but then it goes depressing like that. It's amazing. It's pure gold. We actually had to read A Tale of Two Cities and this for our summer assignment, and I'm dead serious. I like this better. I liked this better, mainly because A Tale of Two Cities may be my least favorite Dickens that I've read, but The Chocolate War is so good. It is so good. Read it. It's phenomenal. And finally, I know I gave this book mention in my December wrap-up video, but it's Raise High the Root Bean Carpenters and Seymour in Introduction by J.D. Salinger, the same mastermind that brought us the pure brilliance that is The Catcher in the Rye. Raise High the Root Bean Carpenters, the first novella in this collection, is my favorite novella of all time. I know I said that in my December wrap-up video, but you really can't blame me for saying that I love this. It's truly beautiful. It is great. It's epic. Actually, no, it's not epic. There's not that much going on in it. It's just a few characters interacting with each other. You feel for these characters. You sometimes hate the characters, and then you can feel really sorry for them. It's just brilliant, and it's about which Glass family member was it about? Oh my goodness, now I feel dumb. Oh my goodness, I hate my. Oh my goodness. I don't know which Glass family member stars in Raise High the Root Bean Carpenters. I feel so guilty. I feel so guilty. I know it is not. I know it is not for sure Seymour nor Franny, but it's got to be somebody else. I have to think about it. But Raise High the Root Bean Carpenters is pretty much about a member of the Glass family going to a wedding, and at the reception, they go towards like the matron of honor, and she just vents about how much she hates his brother Seymour, and then there's a situation where they have to go to his apartment, and it's brilliant because they have to avoid Seymour. It seems like a comedy anime, I'm not even joking, but set in like 1940s New York. Oh my goodness. I love Raise High the Root Bean Carpenters. It's such a phenomenal novella. And then you have Seymour in Introduction, which is pretty much like all about Seymour. And it's through the perspective of Seymour, and he discusses how he wants to be a writer and his life journey of becoming a writer, and then it goes all the way up to his end. And it's just great. It's just great. I love it! It's so good! This is easily my favorite work by Salinger besides Catcher in the Rye. It is easily my favorite work besides Catcher in the Rye from Salinger. It's brilliant. It is just... It's deep. It's complex. It has likable characters. It has a great story. What else do I have to say? Oh yeah, and it also has symbolism if you like that. So that was the video. I know this is kind of a disaster, but hey, I wanted to make a video. So... what did you guys think of this video? Should I keep doing these, or are you just gonna say stop? Don't do this again. But anyway, I'm just gonna keep this short. I'm Mega Man Chief Fan, and I'll see you later, guys.